Oh, yeah, you know what that sound is. Hey, everybody, it's your boy, Ernest, Political Blackout. It's just an army of one right now, but I had a treat for you guys. I was reading this article, and I could not share it with you guys today. So we're actually going to go through this together. It is called The 10 Things Every Intersectional Feminist Should Know. If you have not seen this yet, I'm telling you, this is pure entertainment. Every single time somebody says something along the lines of, no, feminists aren't really that crazy, or no, that's not real feminism, I want you to point them to everyday feminism and then ask them if it is real feminism. So we're going to go through this today. I want to read you her intro on 10 things every intersectional feminist should ask on a first date. So she starts off by saying, as a queer femme of color, I keep close relationships with people who go beyond allyship. They're true accomplices in the fight against white supremacy, queerphobia, and misogyny. If you're not going to support marginalized folks, then we can't be friends, let alone date. The personal is political. Remember that. The personal is political. Beyond the lovely cushioning, happiness, and support that we receive from our platonic relationships, which are, in all honesty, soul-feeding and essential, feminists also date. We'll make fun of that later. But there are questions we have to ask before we get close to someone. The following list of questions is applicable to all relationships, certainly not just cisgendered heterosexual ones. I like how they had to make sure that this was all-inclusive. So we're gonna have a little fun with this one. The first question on the list: you are a queer femme of color, or you're just a feminist and you're out there dating. The first thing on the top of her list is: do you believe that Black lives matter? You're sitting down, you guys go in, it's a nice restaurant, and you sit down, you get ready to have a chat. You got some wine, you ordered your meals and whatnot. Maybe you're just having some coffee and just waiting for some wonderful conversation to get to know each other better. You haven't even made it to that point yet. Off the gate, her first question is, do you believe that Black lives matter? Now, if I were you, I probably would have left already. Just, if the food hasn't come yet, just go ahead and just ask them that you're about to walk out, you'll pay for the drinks. Hell, if the food has been made yet, at this stage, go ahead and just put the card on the table. Just ever so gracefully hand it over to the waiter or waitress when they walk by. Take the hit. Take the hit. You're already done, son. You're done. But hey, we're going to continue. Do Black lives matter? Now, I'm trying to figure out who this is actually written for, because who actually runs around saying no. I'm pretty sure that if you were to say that all lives matter in this case, you're probably done in her book. As she points out, I don't want to have a laborious discussion where I have to prove to someone that white privilege or non-Black privilege exists. If they're willing to learn and listen and make some space to dissenters, their whiteness, if they are white, that's a good place to start. That is her place to start. Do you believe Black Lives Matter is her place to start? All right, so for whatever reason, I guess during this date, you have continued. You figured you were going to fight it out. Maybe this is one of the few non-Landwell feminists, and you were hoping that, maybe, just maybe, this might go somewhere. Maybe she really is just that hot. That's the only reason why I would figure you would continue this longer. But our next question is, what are your thoughts on gender and sexual orientation? This is perfect conversation over, I guess, a glass of wine. The chicken marsala you ordered at Italian Garden. I surely hope no one else is around when you're having this conversation. Yeah, we'll skip over that one. Oh, here's an interesting one. How do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? How do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? I'm starting to get the idea this is pretty much why you only see a single feminist. Maybe it actually has less to do with their looks and more to do with their ideology, but be that as it may. How do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? Okay. She says, I've met cisgender, heteronormative, cishet men who hate women. They say they love women, but that love is conditional on not having their toxic masculinity questioned or threatened in any way. And they love us as a monolith. They love what women have to offer, whether it's sex, food, love, care, emotional labor. They love us for what we can do for them, not because of who we are ourselves. It's crucial for cishet men to learn how to decenter their male privilege in order for them to understand the multitudes of interpretations of femininity and womanhood. I have to make fun of this one a little bit. We got to poke at this a little bit. So she's saying that the reason why men love women is for what women can do for men. I mean, last time I checked, I'm pretty sure that's the majority of just any relationship. She throws out whether it's sex, food, love, care, emotional labor. I mean, all those things kind of really play a big deal. So, I mean, if in the course of this conversation, you guys are laughing and talking, and she's like, hey, yeah, don't expect me to really care for you or have sex. Like, sex is probably secondary. I mean, as a guy, I don't really foresee this going really far. I'm telling you, if you made it past step 2, there's probably already something wrong for you, but they got something for you at the bottom of the list. We'll get there. But how do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? I guess just saying, I don't know, you support your sisters in college or something like that. It's probably not enough nowadays. What are your thoughts on sex work? I don't know why in the fresh hell this would come up in a conversation. This is the first date, mind you. All these are the questions you're supposed to ask on the first date. As a woke feminist, these are the questions you're supposed to ask on the first date. You're chatting over that chicken carbonara in between the chewing and the sipping of maybe a Pinot Grigio. Out comes her mouth. What are your thoughts on sex work? I'll go ahead and read this one off for you. She says, you may scratch your head at this one, but much like racism and misogyny, being pro-sex worker is a necessary pillar of dismantling the patriarchy. And then she says, I don't mean pro-sex worker in the sense where non-sex workers write op-eds and think pieces about how sex work is amazing and feminist. I don't understand it. What? I'm going to read it again. You may scratch your head at this one. I am scratching my head. But much like racism and misogynoir. What the hell is misogynoir? Hold on. I need you guys to see this. Much like racism and misogynoir. Misogynoir. All right, we're going to do a Google on the fly. Let's check this out. Misogynoir. What is this? Let's zoom that in a little bit. Misogynoir is misogyny directed towards Black women where race and gender both play a role in bias. It was coined by a queer Black feminist, Moya Bailey, who created the term to address misogyny directed towards Black women in American visual and popular culture. Okay. All right, this is too much for my brain. We'll that's a whole nother subject. Okay, you may scratch your head at this one, but much like racism and misogynoir, being pro-sex worker is a necessary pillar of dismantling the patriarchy. Then she kind of flips it a little bit, and then she says, I don't mean pro-sex worker in the sense where non-sex workers write op-eds and think pieces about how sex work is amazing and feminist. Feminists have always thrown me off on the sex work bit. I know a lot of libertarians that are pro-sex work, decriminalizing it and all that good stuff, taxing it and blase. But feminists have always confused me especially on sex work, because on one side, you'll have the set of feminists to say that sex work is an absolutely evil part of society that seems to do nothing more than just satisfy male sexual appetites, which of course is the patriarchy. And then you've got feminists like this one that are saying that sex work is a pro-feminist movement. I mean, I guess that doesn't play for the feminists that are, or for the females that are sold into sex work. I think I'm a little lost. All right. Well, anyway, pro-sex work, I guess, is what's necessary in order to date a feminist nowadays. Are you a supporter of the BDS movement? Man, so you guys are chilling, she's sipping on the wine, everything's getting good. You're starting to feel all of those, the butterfly effect and all that good stuff. She asked you if you're a supporter of the BDS movement. Most people probably wouldn't even know what the BDS movement is. So I guess you're probably already out of her league, and just by not knowing that alone. But be that as it may, if you did not know, the BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, Sanctions. This is a anti-Israel oppression of Palestine movement. So for the people that believe that Palestine is currently being oppressed by the Jewish people, the Jewish state, they actually stand in complete opposition to Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people, regardless of, I guess, the thousands of rockets that Palestinians shoot into it every day, whatever. But I guess while she's eating her chicken tartare, you guys are going to have a conversation about support for the BDS movement. And no, that's not BDSM. If it was BDSM, I'm sure things will probably be a little bit more interesting. But I mean, while I'm at it, hey, why not ask her how she feels about the BDS movement? Maybe she does like 50 Shades of Grey, because, that's such a feminist book. What's your understanding of settler colonialism and indigenous rights? Ooh, this is the best date ever. Okay, I didn't grow up in the United States. I was raised in Switzerland, so my understanding of how Europeans committed genocide against indigenous populations here in the U.S. was fairly limited. It required a good deal of my own research to really understand how settler colonialism works and how devastating the erasure of violence against Native American is and was. Is America still killing Native Americans? Is that still a thing? Can I get somebody to Google that? Are they still handing out smallpox blankets? I don't recall that still being a thing. I thought that happened, quite some time ago. Yeah, that's a little problematic. But hey, I mean, this is the first date. It's the first date, guys. It's the first date. Now we get to move on to the good stuff. Do you think capitalism is exploitative? What's weird about this is that this is the date. So more than likely, you guys have figured out where you're going to go. You're at a restaurant. You probably went to movies. You went to a coffee shop, and she's going to ask you, do you think capitalism is exploitative? My response to that would probably be, if it is, we wouldn't be here right now in Olive Garden. Doesn't really get more capitalist than that. But we'll go ahead and read what she has to say about this. Anti-capitalism, especially in the U.S., is imperative if you have an understanding of systemic racism, the prison industrial complex, the 13th Amendment, and exploitation. Capitalism, for one, teaches us that we are only valuable if we produce capital. That means that if you aren't contributing to the system with your labor, your life means nothing. Oh, your life means almost nothing. At least you left that little caveat there. If your date says they're I don't know where this actually has to do with capitalism, but if your date says they're anti-fascist and part of the resistance, but they're cool with exploiting labor from communities of color, and they support the school to prison pipeline, then there is a good chance they'll only value for your ability to nurture them without any reciprocation. Holy crap, the amount of logical leaps that was just taken in those two statements. She went from capitalism to systemic racism, prison industrial complex, 13th Amendment, exploitation. Do white people not work under the same system of capitalism? Are they not exploited just as much? So capitalism is only for exploiting labor of communities of color. But what about everyone else that takes part in the process? Asians, Hispanics, blacks, whites. I guess they don't actually play a role in this. This is a problem with the intersectionality idea. So if you don't know what intersectional feminism or intersectionality as a whole, I implore you to please go look it up. This may be the reason why you might find some things to be so crazy as of late whenever you're watching the news, especially a lot of liberal news or commentators on the internet. So essentially, the reason she was able to jump from all those data points or those, completely sometimes separated topics is because of intersectionalism. If you've ever heard that everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, everything is transphobic, this is essentially what they're talking about. How you can jump from saying that capitalism is a tool of exploitation. But for some reason, these people don't believe that when it comes to communism or socialism. Even though you're talking about a centralized control of the means of production, they don't see that as a form of systemic oppression whatsoever. Even though that would be the exact system that she's saying. Over here, she says, capitalism, for one, teaches us that we're only valuable if we produce capital. Well, under both a socialist and a communist rule, that actually would be exactly the same case, if not worse, because you have to provide in order to provide for everyone else. And that production is controlled by the government, a central means only. You have no other option. I've never understood this, but again, we went anti-capitalism to systemic racism, to prison industrial complex, to exploitation. And then I still like this part at the end, which says, if your date says that they're anti-fascist and part of the resistance, but they're cool with exploiting labor from communities of color, and they support the school, the prison pipeline, which I don't know anyone who does, then there is a good chance they'll only value you for your ability to nurture them without any reciprocation. The ability for someone just to string together that much nonsense in one sentence. Good God Almighty. By the way, if you guys notice, I'm not drinking during this one, but by number 2, I was already ready to take a few shots. I think next time I do this, I'm going to have to do it with some alcohol because this is just ridiculous. So our date's continuing. Things are going good. Picking up vibes for whatever reason. You have not ran. You haven't paid for the check. You're still engaging this individual during this date. You're getting close to near the end, and somewhere along the line, she asks you, can any human be illegal? Yes. Yep. Human can be illegal. Committed an illegal act. Felons lose rights. Crossing borders. Now, of course, some people, especially both liberal and libertarian ends, have some no border rule. However, I do not subscribe to that principle. I don't think that you can actually even have a community if you don't have any level of borders. I think it's a ridiculous idea to have open borders. But be that as it may, you guys are enjoying yourselves, and you want to go out for, you want to dance. This night has gone on. You've already had your dinner. You had your wine. She's asked you a bunch of crazy questions. You're at the club, maybe. Got her probably, I don't know, what do feminists drink? You got her glass. You got her a shot of male tears, cis white male tears. She took a few shots of that, and then she feel bold enough to ask you, can any human be illegal? Yes, that would be my answer. but I already failed this test by the first one. So obviously this person wouldn't date me. And that's fine because she's probably a, I don't know, shortcut, blue-haired, green armpitted, woolly mammoth of a land whale. But, enough with the ad hominems. Let's move on. Let's see what she actually has to say about this. We live on a tiny planet with land and water within a galaxy surrounded by a universe with an inconceivable number of other galaxies and planets. Yet here we dictate where we are and who is allowed to be where we are. It's mind-boggling that borders are even a thing. So to call people aliens or illegal immigrants, take two, illegal immigrants, is so inhumane and despicable. I would like to ask her if she locks her doors. That probably would be one of my first questions. Do you lock your doors? I mean, people are capable of having agency, but also that agency is normally backed up by, they draw a line. Even when you deal with another person, let's say you walk with somebody and you poke them. We have rules against that. People say, get out of my bubble. You can expand that idea of the personal bubble to a lot of things. Property breaks down, in my opinion, once you've crossed this line, but we're not going to have that conversation about open borders right now. She goes on to say on this topic, white Americans stole this land, colonized this land, created so many borders, pushed out, killed, and enslaved people of color, and somehow they have the audacity to claim that this land is theirs and that black and brown immigrants are stealing their jobs, lands, and homes. Miss me with that bullshit. I've always had an issue. This is particularly a problem with white liberal people. They act as if colonization only existed for white people. Since time immemorial, people have been taking over lands, colonizing, enslaving, pillaging. It just happened to be, in this case, the white man did it better. You find any tribal group, what are they tribal for? They're tribal because they're separated. They're separated. What happens when those two tribes happen to have a disagreement? If they don't come to an understanding, they tend to go to blows. Even in tribal societies, Native Americans, Africans, hell, I mean, part of the known world was owned by, large portion of the known world was controlled by brown people. Or miss me with that bullshit where at no point in time did Muslims not colonize and control a good portion of the known world before they were risen up against by lighter skinned individuals. As if stuff like that did not happen. Whenever I see stuff like this, it surprises me as if they don't believe that this doesn't happen or has never happened at any point in time in history. Because she says, miss me with that bullshit. What bullshit? It has been around since time immemorial. Since individuals have existed, we have fought. We have died. We have pillaged. We've colonized. It just happened to be at certain times in history, a group has done it better than others. So yeah, miss me with that bullshit. I don't know why you're still on this date, but we're gonna just knock out these last two because this shit's just getting ridiculous. I don't know how anyone is actually going to be able to date. If you believe, when we sit around and you make the jokes about why feminists can't get laid, maybe it's because the first thing that you asked me in the middle of our date was, do you believe Black Lives Matter? Okay, anyway. Okay. We're suffering through this with no drink of any kind. There's no wine, there's no whiskey, there's no alcohol of any kind. We're gonna make it through. Okay. Lastly, these last two. Do you support Muslim Americans and non-Muslim people from Islamic countries? I can't think of any other religion which has been vilified and lied about more than Islam. Wait, what? Hold on, take two. We're going to read that together again. I can't think of any other religion which has been vilified and lied about more than Islam. Hold on. I'll be back. can't think of any. Hold on. We're going to wait for this adjustment. I can't think of any other religion. Can't think of any. None other, no, none possibly. I can't think of any other religion which has been vilified and lied about more than Islam in a cultural and systemic way. I'm not a Muslim, so I will stay in my lane. I'm not a Muslim, so I will stay in my lane. Okay, so in my opinion, just hang with me for one second, gang. I am not a Muslim, so I would stay in my lane. This should come first, and then everything before and after should just be deleted. It's like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't have a place, or I don't know enough to say what I'm talking about, but I'm not a Muslim, so I'll stay in my lane. Oh, okay, let's continue. I'm not a Muslim, so I'll stay in my lane, but I cannot imagine for a second even claiming to be a feminist if I didn't stand in solidarity with my Muslim friends and family, especially after 9/11. Especially now, especially after 9/11. Let's highlight this. I just need you guys really just to ponder this for a moment. She couldn't consider herself. I cannot imagine for a second ever claiming to be a feminist if I didn't stand in solidarity with my Muslim friends and family. Because, most Muslim women across the planet just wear, I don't know, they wear burqas because they have to. I mean, no. They wear burqas because it's a sign of feminism. Not showing your body is their choice. What kind of ridiculous shit is this? Especially now, especially after 9/11. Did I miss the part where, I don't know, some crazy right-wing people hopped on a plane and flew it into a few mosques? Is that what happened? Is that what happened on 9/11? I need someone fact check that for me. Fact check 9/11. 5,000 Muslims died. Is that what happened on 9/11? There's nothing in here. I can't find anything in here where she shows any solidarity for the people that were killed by these crazy Islamicists, but she wouldn't consider herself a feminist if she didn't stand in solidarity with her Muslim friends. But hey guys, just remember, I'm not a Muslim, so I will stay in my lane. What kind of ridiculous? Okay, next one. This is getting... Don't waste your time and energy on dating someone who thinks that Islam is inherently violent or misogynistic. My entire life, I'm just gonna throw this out here, guys. I want you guys to understand me. My entire life. So someone who grew up Christian, as someone who grew up in the West, someone who grew up in specifically America, I can't think of a time where the faith of Christianity was not seen as misogynistic by people on the left. This same individual, I can guarantee, and I might actually have to do this research later if this person's been writing long enough, or if I can find some old posts of theirs. I can almost guarantee this same person, these same people that are willing to say that Islam is not inherently misogynistic are the same people that argue that Christianity was. I can't think of a time in my history growing up as a Christian that I did not hear from left-leaning individuals that Christianity itself was inherently misogynistic. But she's telling you on a date, not to date someone who thinks that Islam is inherently misogynistic. Dress code laws? Meh. Women being able to drive? Acid attached? Small stuff. Small stuff. It doesn't really happen that often. Meeting, I don't know, a woman's testimony being equal. Well, was it 2 women testimony? 2 or 3 women? Testimony equal as 1 man? You know, that's just small stuff. It's the small stuff. Beatings, small stuff. Multiple wives, small stuff. Arranged marriages, small stuff, small stuff. But, however, if you're a feminist, if you are a feminist, make sure you don't date anyone that thinks that Islam is inherently misogynistic. Last but not least, these guys, we're almost through this. We're almost through this. Does your allyship include disabled folks? It's the end of the night. For whatever reason you hung on during this date, you made it all the way through. You answered all the questions. And actually, from the way I understand it, each one of these are actually make or break questions. So I guess if you answered them all wrong, we wouldn't even have made it this far. So I don't even know why we're actually covering it. However, does your allyship, you've continued the night, maybe you've survived it, said all the right things during this date. Hopefully you asked them to split the checks on everything just to be equal. You didn't assume that you were going to pay. You did not assume you were going to pay. She covered her half. You covered yours. The day's night's over. You're driving her back home. You pull up to the, her driveway. Ever so nicely, actually, you don't even open up the door. You just sit in the car and wait for her to get out. And I'm sure you opening the door is probably some form of toxic masculinity. And her last question as you're leaving the car is, does your allyship include disabled folks? You've survived. You made it the entire evening, and out of her mouth comes, does your allyship include disabled folks? So let's see what she has to say about this. As an able-bodied woman, again, I will stay in my lane. You're not staying in your lane. Okay, so what I've already learned is every time she says, I will stay in my lane, just look for this. Followed behind that is her not staying in her lane. So let's just continue on. I don't know, logically we would have already stopped there and everything else would have been deleted, but as an able-bodied woman, again, I will stay in my lane, but intersectionality has to include a solid platform for disabled people and not just the visibly disabled disabilities, not just the visible disabilities. If you have disabled family or friends, please make the effort to listen and learn about their lives and their experiences. Disabled folks are subject to shaming and violence because humans are awful and lack empathy. Be mindful of others who mock disabled people. That kind of cruelty is inexcusable. On a date with someone who uses ableist slurs, walk away. So normally, the person we would consider that would actually make fun of a disabled person would be asshole. And you would just say, that's an asshole. Why would that be part of your questionnaire on your first damn date? This is date 1, ladies and gentlemen. What is date 2 going to be like? I don't even know how to actually deal with this. This stuff is actually ridiculous. So again, when people walk around, or not walk around, when you see the comments like, oh no, feminism actually isn't that. Those are just the crazy fringes. I'm reading this off of everydayfeminism.com. I want you to ask them if everyday feminism is actually feminism. Right here, everyday feminism. You see this right here? That right there. and ask your feminist friends if this is actually reasonable. I want to actually know. I want to actually know if this shit's considered reasonable. Again, this is the first date. This is Laura. Wait, this is her go-to. This is the start. We haven't even got to know each other's. I don't even remember your birthday. I don't know your favorite color. But I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts on gender and sexual orientation while eating chicken marsala? Woo! This is a rough one to get through. I'm just saying, maybe these people really are as crazy as they make themselves out to be. And the only problem is that how do you tell the difference? How do you tell the difference between the reasonable one and the crazy one? Because this seems like it was well thought out. Grant, be that as it may, it's illogical as all hell, but it is well thought out. This is hard to deal with, guys. But thank you for going down this extremely painful rabbit hole with me into the minds of the modern day third wave feminists. I'm sure that this was educational. I'm sure we all know now how we are supposed to conduct ourselves during a date. If you did not think that dating was confusing before, feminism's cancer. I'm sorry. Feminism's cancer. It's dating scene is just dead. It seems more likely MGTOWs are sounding real reasonable. So with that, gang, I think I'm going to call it a night. I need a stiff drink. If you stayed with me this long, I think you need a drink. I think we all need about 10 to wash away the pain of what feminism has brought us. But thanks for watching. Once again, it's your boy, Ernest, a.k.a. True Wendigo, coming at you live with Political Blackout. Stay safe out there, guys. Stay strong. Continue to fight. And 2018 is almost here, and we're going to need a lot more drinking if we're going to survive this. Peace.